Welcome back to This Day in Scottish History. I'm your host, Colin MacDonald. Today, we're travelling back to May 2nd, 1520, when the cobbled streets of Edinburgh ran red with blood in one of the most dramatic and violent episodes of early 16th century Scotland. It was a clash not between armies but noble factions, the powerful Douglas and Hamilton families vying for influence over the young King James V. This brutal street battle would come to be known by a name as stark as the event itself, Cleanse the Causeway. And if you're curious about other fascinating events that happened on this day in history, be sure to check out my blog at bagtownclans.com/thisday. The link is in the description. In the spring of 1520, Scotland was a kingdom under strain. The death of King James IV at Flodden in 1513 had left a void. His son and successor, James V, was still a child, only 8 years old, and the kingdom was effectively ruled by competing regents and guardians. Among these power-hungry lords, two men emerged as the central players in a dangerous game of political chess: Archibald Douglas, the 6th Earl of Angus, and James Hamilton, the 1st Earl of Arran. The rivalry wasn't new, but in 1520 it exploded with deadly force. Both men sought control over the young king and, by extension, the levers of power. Angus, of the mighty Douglas line, was known for his boldness and ambition. He had recently married Margaret Tudor, the Dowager Queen and sister to England's Henry VIII, strengthening his political position. Arran, head of the powerful Hamilton family, was no less determined to claim dominance in the regency government. The capital city, Edinburgh, became the stage for their confrontation. On May 2nd, Angus arrived in the city with a small but determined band of followers. Arran, learning of his rival's presence, decided to act. He mustered a force said to number around 500 men and began advancing through the narrow, winding lanes of Edinburgh's Old Town, seeking to expel the Douglases by force. What followed was not a skirmish, but open war within the city walls. The clash took place on the High Street, known then as the Causeway, a term for a paved road in medieval Scotland. The violence was swift, chaotic, and utterly ruthless. Archers loosed arrows from tenement windows, swords clanged against steel, and bodies fell in the mud. According to chroniclers, Sir Patrick Hamilton, Arran's brother, was among the most notable victims. He was struck down in the fray, a blow not only to the Hamilton cause, but to the city's already fragile stability. Despite being outnumbered, Angus's men held firm. Some accounts suggest that cunning and local support allowed the Douglases to turn the tide, driving Arran's forces back and effectively cleansing the causeway of their enemies, hence the name. The Douglases emerged bloodied but victorious. The aftermath of Cleanse the Causeway left deep scars, not just physically on the city, but politically across the kingdom. The violence exposed the deep instability of the regency, a period marked not by unity and stewardship for the young king, but by infighting, treachery, and ambition. For James V, it was another reminder that his kingdom was being torn apart by the very men sworn to protect it. In the years that followed, the rivalry between the Douglases and Hamiltons would continue to shape Scotland's turbulent politics. Angus would eventually become the de facto ruler of Scotland during James V's adolescence, a position he held until the young king, in his early teens, managed to break free from Douglas control and assert his authority. As for the city of Edinburgh, it had witnessed many dramatic events in its long history, but few were as openly savage as the events of that May Day in 1520. Cleanse the Causeway wasn't just a brawl, it was an eruption of the political tensions festering in the heart of Scotland, a grim prelude to the instability that would haunt the kingdom for decades. Thank you for joining me today on This Day in Scottish History. I hope you've enjoyed this tale of ambition, betrayal, and the high cost of power. Don't forget to visit my blog for more deep dives into Scotland's rich and dramatic past at bagtownclans.com/thisday. I'm Colin MacDonald. Haste you back.